Do you want to generate leads? Is free your favorite price? Then you need to check out IYBA.pro. IYBA.pro is your industry-owned platform for all listings and marketing. Create robust yacht sales and charter profiles, elegant marketing material, have access to all your exclusive data, and enjoy premium search engine optimization by signing up with us. For more information on how to join IYBA.pro, call the IYBA headquarters or email me at casey@iyba.org.
Maritime arbitration has been around for hundreds of years. Now we have a new forum to solve our disputes. The IYBA has created the International Yacht Arbitration Council to solve our disagreements. We have experienced maritime attorneys and yacht brokers to serve on our panels, people who know the law, who know boats, and who know the yacht business. IYAC arbitration can handle yacht claims, contract, purchase, and commission disputes privately, quickly, and less costly than going to court. Sometimes disputes happen, and when they do, the IYAC is here to help you solve them.
Hi, I'm Bob Saxon. I'm president of EBA, the International Yacht Brokers Association. What is EBA? Our mission statement suggests our worthy objective to be promoting professionalism and ethics amongst our members. But EBA is more than that. The work and the energies of our board of directors and our support committees is directed toward bettering the business environment within our constituency by way of education, networking, webinars, seminars, political engagement, and many other activities for the greater benefit of our membership. Our reach is impressive, with a global membership of over 1,600 strong, marking EBA as the largest and most influential professional association of yacht brokers and affiliates. If not a current member, I encourage your participation. If already an active EBA member, learn how you can serve in a board support capacity by becoming a committee member. I asked earlier, what is EBA? And in the final analysis, EBA is you, EBA is your cause. And I know that you're going to enjoy this week's EBA Yacht Engineering Webinar Week.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 4 of Yacht Engineering Week. I'm Paul Flannery. We're here live at the IYBA studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I got to tell you, I am really excited this morning. We've had a very educational week so far. We've had 3 days of great engagement with a variety of different topics. We've talked about aftercoolers. We've talked about connectivity and satellite communication. We've talked about engine alignment and lighting and all sorts of different things. We've been reaching out all around the world. And the reason I'm so excited this morning is to tell you that we have people online right now with us from Southern California to Poland. We've got the entire globe handled. We've had feedback from Australia. We've had feedback from Brazil. So I'm really, really pleased with the connectivity and with the ability to get our message out. Our seminars are a really important part of what we do at IYBA. One of the things that we all really cherish about it is the networking aspects of being able to get in the room and see one another, establish relationships with people, maybe eye to eye that you've only had on the phone before. And unfortunately, we're not able to do that this year. We're doing it virtually. But I got to tell you, I'm really, really excited about the connectivity and the reach that we've been able to accomplish this week. Thanks to everybody for joining us. So welcome to day, welcome to day 4. We've got more great educational content for you today. We're going to talk to some guys out in the West Coast. They're up bright and early. But before we get to that, I want to say thanks, obviously, and always to our sponsors. Robert Allen Law is our coffee sponsor, and you guys know I enjoy my coffee. Robert Allen Law has been a great supporter of the association for quite some time. They're our coffee sponsor this week. Our major sponsors this week are Northern Lights with Technicold, Seakeeper, Pantropic Caterpillar, KVH and MPI, Karen Lynn Interiors, Apollo Lighting, Underwater Lighting, Quantum Stabilizers, AME Solutions, who has been a supporter of this event from the very beginning, as has Seakeeper and as has Northern Lights. JV Connectivity is our communications sponsor, and they've done a great job. We had a few technical difficulties on the first day of the week. JV jumped in here. We've boosted our Wi-Fi signal to something higher than I can even count. And hopefully we're going to have a lot more stability in our platform today. Last, by no means least, is LMC, Lauderdale Marine Center. They're our official timekeeper sponsor for this week. So the way we're able to put these events together is through the participation of the board and the committees. The committee that helped us design this event was comprised of Bob Dennison from Dennison Yachting, Jeff Stanley from Gilman Yachts, Trevor Carroll from Fraser Yachts, and I was also a part of it. Bob Zarkin and I brought this idea forward 6 years ago, and we're happy to say that it's rolling along quite well. None of this would be possible without the incredible staff here at IYBA. Rayut Masre, Emma Ross, and Casey Noble are the ones that really bring it all together and make it look easy. That's the sign of true professionals. And of course, Lee Savage with Between Two Yetis has been the one who's seamed it all together, stitched it all together, and is bringing us to you all around the world. So today's agenda is going to be Northern Lights and Technicold. After their segment is over, we're going to break for a little commercial, and then we're going to come back with a great discussion on hybrid technologies, what's new, what's developing, and what's just around the corner with hybrid propulsion systems for boats and yachts. So we're going to break for a quick commercial right now. The guys out on the West Coast are up bright and early. They're going to join us from Northern Lights and Technicold. So we're going to take one quick break, give them a chance to get started. We don't have Heather with us this morning. She'll be back with all of us tomorrow. She worked hard yesterday, and we're given a chance to catch her breath today. So we'll break. We'll come back with Kit and Scott from Northern Lights Technicold on the West Coast. So stand by with us. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Marine Professionals MPI has been in business since 1997. With over 20 years of experience, we at MPI provide you the very best in marine electronics, audio, video, and networking. We specialize in boats from 40 to 120 feet. If you need navigation, including Garmin, Raymarine, or any other top brands, MPI is your go-to source. If you need audio video equipment, MPI can provide you with HD TV and the very best sound with a Sonos hi-fi sound system. MPI is the only Marine Gold Sonos dealer in the country. Nowadays, everybody wants high-speed internet. MPI can offer you different solutions that fit your needs. Whether it's to pick up the marina Wi-Fi, cellular, or satellite, MPI has you covered. We'll make sure you can binge watch your favorite Netflix episodes anywhere, anytime you want. You can check us out online at marineprofessionals.com or call us today. I'm Mark Carreri, and I approve this message.
Maritime arbitration has been around for hundreds of years. Now we have a new forum to solve our disputes. The IYBA has created the International Yacht Arbitration Council to solve our disagreements. We have experienced maritime attorneys and yacht brokers to serve on our panels, people who know the law, who know boats, and who know the yacht business. IYAC arbitration can handle yacht claims, contract, purchase, and commission disputes privately, quickly, and less costly than going to court. Sometimes disputes happen, and when they do, the IYAC is here to help you solve them.
And good morning, guys. We're with Northern Lights Technicold in Seattle, Washington. We've got Kit Purdy and Scott Dival with Northern Lights with us. Guys, thanks for joining us this morning. I know it's bright and early out there in Seattle. Kit, tell us what we're going to be talking about today.
Hey, good morning, Paul. It's great to be with you guys, even though we're in Seattle. COVID is no fun, but we're making it work. I'm going to take my mask off. I'm going to try not to, push Northern Lights too much, because I know this is a general thing about generators. So don't worry about any of these logos here anywhere.
All right, we'll do our best not to pay attention to all those Northern Lights logos.
Yeah, right. Okay, so today we're going to talk about power takeoffs, PTOs. We'll go over that briefly, and raw water pumps, cooling systems, the exhaust elbows, and we're going to touch upon air cleaners and like what spare parts maybe you should have on your boat.
Great. So we're going to talk mostly about the maintenance high points on the generators.
You've got it.
Wonderful. Where do we want to start?
And also, I guess, do we want to start with a tour of our facility?
You know what? I'm sure the audience would love to see a little behind the curtains peek at where the Northern Lights generators come from. So if you guys could give us a little tour of the facility before we talk about the gen sets, I think that'd be wonderful.
We can do that. So Northern Lights does have several facilities located around the world, and we build a lot of our box good gen sets a little bit everywhere. So, but here we build a lot of the big stuff, and we alter a lot of the stuff. So we'll take a quick tour and show you around.
Okay, great.
And Scott Dival is here. He's gonna help us out. He's our technical service advisor. He's one of those guys that is available 24/7.
Scott, you're going to wish he didn't say that. All right, so we're out onto the production floor here.
Yeah, we're walking through.
Give us a little sense of where we are while we're moving through here, Kit.
That we're walking through, and this is all the shipment out bin. So they fill these up and ship them out. Here is where we keep a lot of them. Here's where we keep a lot of our parts that we have engineered ourselves and keep ready to go out for deliveries.
Kit, that's a
Here
pretty
we're
big
working on
facility.
one generator.
Can you give us an idea of roughly how many square feet you have out there?
Back here is where we test all of our parts and make sure the quality is all good, ready to go. So you got these guys here, we go through and just make sure everything is perfect before it goes out. Pressure test it, do everything.
Okay.
This is a area. Jonah's getting ready to align and install a PTO, power takeoff on land unit. So
So here we have Jonah. Jonah's like me. Jonah has the COVID hair going on. So that is what it is. But if you could bring the camera on over here. Jonah is getting ready to install a PTO on this particular generator. So we will talk about that, and it'll make a lot more sense a little bit earlier.
Okay.
And here's our test bay area. We won't walk through there, but you can see we got one big yacht set unit there behind me, and that is getting ready to go out soon.
So, Kit, you mentioned when we were in the other side in the showroom, you mentioned box sets and others. Up to what size do we make the box sets?
So we go box sets. We go from 5 kilowatts to 40 kilowatts, and then after that we go up to 800 kilowatts, 50 kilowatts, 800 kilowatts.
So when you're referring to a box set, what you're talking about is a generator that comes with the sound shield and a box
land-based
around
units. So we also do some land-based stuff, believe it or not, or deck sets.
Okay.
These are some ignition protected units getting ready to go out to some gas powered outboard boats.
Okay.
And this is our commercial series. Our commercial series are always this dark, kind of gray color for the commercial boats. And here we have, these are our sound enclosures. So it's kind of what our sound enclosures look like. These actually, you could bring the camera over here. These actually have a PTO on these ones as well. So we do a lot of PTO stuff for sailboats or power takeoff units to run stabilizers, thrusters, and so on and so on. Here's a couple of systems that are going out to Atlantic Power in Florida. Big boys going on. I'll stand in front of it so you know how big it is. Going on a couple of big yachts.
That's a big machine. How many kW is that, Kit?
Pardon me?
How many kW is that machine?
Ooh, Scott, could you check that out? 150. 150
Wow, okay.
kilowatts. These are all, this whole area is ready for departure. So these, as soon as the truck shows up, these will get loaded up and be shipped out this week. And these are stock units over here. We have several outbuildings. We're just going through kind of the main buildings. So we have several outbuildings where we store a lot more stuff and have all the units.
And how many square foot is your facility out there, Kit?
Roughly
55,000. That's a big facility.
That's with all the buildings combined.
Sure.
Oh.
Hi, I'm Bob Allen, and I work with a law firm known as Robert Allen Law. We're a law firm dedicated to serving the needs of people in the yacht industry. And that means manufacturers, that means brokers, that means buyers, that means sellers, that means banks, that means people who sell all sorts of things and services to the yacht industry. We're a team of lawyers that has experience in virtually all the fields surrounding this business. And if you're in the business, you know how important it is to work with lawyers who know yachts, right? And know the type of problems that arise and know how to solve them. Our job as lawyers is to help deals get done. Thanks for the opportunity to be of service to the industry, and we look forward to hearing from you if the need arises.
Seakeeper has changed the resale values of our boats by the fact that if there's one in it, it definitely sells faster than one without it.
A boat today, the same model without Seakeeper, it's extremely penalized on the used boat market.
Do you want to generate leads? Is free your favorite price? Then you need to check out IYBA.pro. IYBA.pro is your industry-owned platform for all listings and marketing. Create robust yacht sales and charter profiles, elegant marketing material, have access to all your exclusive data, and enjoy premium search engine optimization by signing up with us. For more information on how to join IYBA.pro, call the IYBA headquarters or email me at casey@iyba.org.
Okay, and now we're back with the gen set. So Kit and Scott, tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah, Paul, right here we have a 5 kilowatt unit, and the 5 kilowatt is the smallest generator we make in the Northern Lights family. So we do from 5 kilowatt to 800 kilowatt in the yacht set market. This 5 kilowatt does not accept a front PTO, and we were going to talk about front PTOs to start with, and I think we can still talk about them. Scott, you want to tell everybody about a PTO, power takeoff unit?
Sure. Hello, everybody. This is, as Kit said, this is a smaller unit than what we put PTO option on. Our PTO option starts at 12 kilowatts and then is pretty much available for all the generator set sizes that we build larger than 12 kilowatts. For fairly obvious reasons, the 5 kW is pretty limited power plant, so what you would have available between electrical and hydraulic output is quite limited. So on our factory tour out there, we saw a fellow in the early stages of PTO installation. He had what's called an alignment tool on the crankshaft that helps align the housing and the clutch to the crankshaft and keep everything center aligned with the crankshaft. It's a bit of a process to install PTOs, and for that reason we require that process to be done here at the factory. That way we can test run everything, you know, put everything together here and test run it, burnish the clutch in the factory, and we know we're going to have a good result. So,
Well, typically, Scott, what equipment would we be running off of a power takeoff? Would that be for stabilizers, bow thrusters, anchor windlasses, things of that nature?
Power takeoff can be used for any number of hydraulic applications on the boat, from zero-speed stabilizers, davits, windlasses. Not feel like you're on a boat, apparently.
So the generator is no longer just to provide us for electricity. We've got some other accessories that come off of there and some other equipment that we're running from the gen set as well.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's becoming a more integral component than it ever has been before. So that being the case, you know, we're being more dependent upon it. Let's talk about a couple of the maintenance issues that we have to consider so that we can always depend upon the generator. cooling systems was something that Kit had mentioned earlier. Tell us a little bit about the cooling system and what needs to be addressed there.
Yeah, on the coolants, we get a lot of calls for different issues that have been on the coolant side of things. And one of the major things is actually choosing the correct coolant to use for our engines. And I'm going to let Scott discuss that with you, and also some of the problems that may come in that you had. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, we do get a lot of calls regarding cooling system, whether it's engine overheating or failed impeller, coolant compatibility. So really, for simplicity's sake, I think it's easiest to break the cooling system down to two separate circuits, the freshwater circuit and the seawater circuit or raw water circuit. We don't have a lot of time to discuss in deep detail, but on the freshwater side, I'd say the most important thing is to use the recommended coolant, recommended type of coolant, which we recommend.
So is there ever a need to take a sample
ethylene
of that?
glycol 50-50 premixed coolant. So there's lots of formulations of coolant out on the market today, lots of coolants with organic acid salt and hybrid organic acid additives, but a lot of these tend to have compatibility issues with either the thermostats or some other component, water pump seals. So we have had very good results with the brand that we have here. This is Fleetguard ES Complete ethylene glycol 50-50 premixed, so no need to add water. This is a blue formula. It's very close to the same color. The actual liquid very close to the same color as what's on the label here, but we've had really good results with this. You don't have to use that brand, but that's the type that we recommend. I don't think we're going to get too deep into the freshwater side of the cooling system for sake of time. So as long as you're flushing the coolant and keeping the coolant topped up at the recommended intervals, making sure you don't have any leaks, and using the right coolant, the recommended type, should not have any issues with the cooling system. The seawater side requires a little more maintenance, and I might have the cameraman bring the camera in a little closer to focus on the seawater pump as we start to talk about the seawater cooling side of the circuit. So here's the seawater pump or raw water pump on this small model. It's in a very similar location on most of our small box good generator sets, up through about 40 kilowatts. We use all of our seawater pumps are gear driven, so driven off the gear train of the engine, and all on the service side for ease of access and servicing the impeller. This is really where the seawater circuit starts. Water comes in from the sea chest, typically a sea cock or a valve between the sea chest and the seawater pump, and then the seawater continues on up and into the heat exchanger. You can just kind of follow me around with the camera here. Seawater continues through the heat exchanger, which is a tube stack or a tube bundle that lives inside the expansion tank. The expansion tank is also the exhaust manifold, so pretty compact. But the seawater continues through the heat exchanger into this collector boot at the back end, and then comes down into the mixing elbow where it mixes, well, doesn't mix right here, it mixes down at the outlet end of the mixing elbow with the exhaust gas. So this exhaust elbow is baffled. It has seawater on one side and exhaust gas on the other side, and then they collect together here at the outlet where it goes down to the muffler. In terms of cooling system maintenance, the seawater side probably requires more maintenance, more actual periodic maintenance than than the freshwater side. So I'm going to come back over here to the seawater pump that we looked at a few minutes ago. Primary maintenance item on seawater pump, of course, is the impeller. We have a sample of an
generator. I think one of the things that's important, guys, is to realize you mentioned briefly about keeping a load on the generator, and probably the biggest load on a generator is our air conditioning and refrigeration system, isn't it?
Well, it is. That's one of the reasons why we decided to get into Technicold, which is our air conditioning line, because it is the main draw of a generator. So we felt like it was an item that touched the generator, and so it was a good idea to get into that business so we can better control the load on the generator and not have too many issues. We should. Crap, we're gonna have to take a break. We have to take a break here. Hang on.
Okay. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're back. Kit, you had mentioned a few minutes ago that in the generator segment, one of the most important things is keeping a steady load. And you guys at Northern Lights recognize that refrigeration is one of those opportunities. Without trying to make us refrigeration experts, can you give us a little overview of what Technicold is all about?
Yeah, thanks, Paul, for that. We got into Technicold because it is one of the major draws of a generator. So we thought that, since the two touch and they really go together well, we decided to jump into this as it's something that's really important is the load on the generator. So we also build load banks to load up the generators, and of course the load banks are really just for the bigger units, but we definitely do that. Right here happens to be one of our chiller units, and our chiller units are great because they don't have to worry about the water getting into a pan down here. We don't have that sweat that a lot of other brands have. And so I don't know if you've ever been on a boat where you get maybe some rusty water down here. You see some rusty water because it's so hard to get in here with a rag and clean up that water. Here we just have a nice stainless steel base fan, and it looks pretty. This is our coils. Our coils have cupronickel lines in them. They're a little bit bigger coils than what you normally see on a chiller system. So kind of a basic rundown of this. Very simple machine, easy to work on. Again, we have customer service for this 24/7. You can always call and get some help on that. Here is what our air handlers look like. We have different sizes of air handlers, different configurations to fit inside the different boats. If you look in here, you'll see just a simple fan. These fans and stuff are something that you constantly kind of want to check for any kind of fungus or this or that. This is a system that we recommend checking out a lot, because in some of these high moisture, hot humidity areas, if the boat sits without stuff running, it can build up some fungus or moisture in here. We also use some UV for any kind of fungus or this or that. This is enough to keep that down. This does have a pan in it that will
during the webinars.
That's
it's a no-brainer answer.
We recommend too, so you need to check it out a lot. Because, but that's
After this is over, call and tell them I want them here today, because this thing's crashing on us.
Technical.
Okay.
In so many, how much time we have here? It's awesome on the boat. I have it on my boat, and it is the best.
Like 8 minutes.
And you know what I should mention?
Connect it up to the.
All these are built in Florida at our Deerfield Beach facility. So the quality is high.
Okay. And we offer 2 different types, if I'm not mistaken. Don't you offer chilled water? And then what's the other one? Is
yes,
it DX?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Paul. We offer DX. DX is similar to a reverse cycle type system. So it'll produce heat and air conditioning. On our chillers for the heat, we use some heat strips that will produce the heat. So it's a nice dry heat that comes out. So you won't get that moisture on your windows.
So typically we'd find the DX system in a smaller boat and the chilled water system in a larger boat, correct?
You got it. You got it.
Okay, awesome. Well, Kit, thanks very much. I appreciate the overview on Technicold there. Obviously, air conditioning and refrigeration is a very important component with keeping a good load on the generator. And as you had mentioned, it's a very important thing to keep a solid load on the generator. Otherwise, we wind up with carbon buildup and a shorter life expectancy than we're hoping for.
You got it. You got it. And that, all this stuff we went over today really covers, I would say, all generators for the most part. So if you don't have a Northern Lights, it's okay. All those basic points go for all generators. You really got to watch those maintenance items.
Okay. Well, thanks. That's a great overview of generators, and one of the biggest load factors on a generator of air conditioning and refrigeration. Kit and Scott, thanks very much for your time today. It's been a really informative segment, and we'll hope to see you here in Florida soon.
Paul, you're an awesome guy. Thank you so much for this.
Thanks, guys.
What does a boat built for towing oil rigs have in common with a boat built for recreation? Neither one has any room for error. And no one understands this better than Hargrave Custom Yachts, because their customers are looking to relax, and they know their boats never can.
There's a lot of challenges when you're running a charter boat. A lot of times people don't really realize the behind-the-scenes stuff. It's not like the freighters or the fishing boats. Yachts go out in fair weather, and I've been very fortunate. I've only gone through a couple of really bad storms, but I had to get in Antigua for a charter boat show. These dates are hard set. I reluctantly set off. At day 3 into a 4-day trip to Bermuda, we just hit it hard. We're in 30-foot seas with 70-knot winds. I mean, we were kind of holding on here. The boat was rolling so hard that there was not enough water in the bilge for the pumps to work, because at one point the water was all the way at this side and the other point it was all the way at that side. And I realized that when that clutch pump goes to 60 minutes an hour, we're sinking. And I'll tell you, thank God for, engines, because that damn engine got me all the way to Bermuda and kept that pump running.
When we started this company, I didn't have many absolute must decisions, but the first one I made was we were going to go with Caterpillar, because I'd worked with all the other companies. I worked for them a long time, and the only person at the end of the day, when you really put the pressure on, the only person that showed up was Caterpillar. And what makes Hargrave different is we understand that those few weeks, those few days that the guy's on the boat, there can't be any excuses, none. He doesn't want to know anything. He doesn't have time. The minute he gets one, two, or a third excuse, he's out of boating forever. It's depending on you to tell him what he really needs to know. He doesn't know this business. He's absolutely trusting you. Tell me what I need to know, and that's why I've told him, put Cat engines in.
The bottom line is these boats have to get there. Boats have to get from Newport to Antigua, or to the Mediterranean, Gibraltar, Antibes. And these boats go through the same stuff that every other boat goes through. And they look great, but they have to be tough too.
From heavy swells to fair weather, the sea offers no guarantees. But through it all, customers can count on Hargrave Custom Yachts to be there for them, mile after nautical mile.
All right. We had a little difficulty with our computer in-house here, but I think we've managed to capture ourselves back. And I think we are live, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So thanks very much to Kit and Scott from Seattle. We appreciate you coming to us so early in the morning from out there. Our next segment, we're going to talk about hybrid technologies. We have a great panel that's going to discuss that with us. Brian Fowler from Caterpillar, Donald Williams from Northern Lights, Sven Odegard from Corvus Energy, and Jeff Bowles from Donald L. Blunt & Associates, Gibbs & Cox. I think those guys are queued up and ready to join us. Bottom line is what we want to talk about is hybrid technologies, what's available today. I stay pretty well tuned into what's going on in the industry, and a lot of it I'm not quite aware of as yet. So these guys are going to bring us up to date on what's available now, and give us a little insight as to what's just around the corner for us as well. So I see Jeff is joining us here, and
good morning.
We'll be following. Hey Jeff, good morning.
How's it going?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent.
I'm the volume here, guys, so if you could help me with that, that would be great. And Sven is joining us. Good morning, Sven. Sven is coming to us from the West Coast, so we've had a host of people get up bright and early to come and talk to us all today. And I'm looking for Brian and Donald. They should be joining us as well. And my apologies, folks. We're trying to make it so I can see what's going on as well. Our main computer picked a beautiful time to crash on us. So fortunately, the guys at JV Connectivity were right here, ready to jump right in. And
there you are. Everybody but the host.
Yeah, that's some major problem with the main computer.
Can you give us a little sense as to what Caterpillar is doing with hybrid technologies, and are we talking about parallel technologies? What is it that you guys are doing? Can you guys hear me this morning?
Yes,
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. All right. I've just gotten you guys back in on audio. My apologies, folks, for this. We're adapting as quickly as possible for all of it. So, Brian, were you able to hear my questions?
I don't believe so, but yeah, we can't see you. We can hear you now. Good morning.
Okay. All right. Well, look, they'd rather see you guys anyway than me. They've seen enough of me over the week. Let's start out with you, Brian. Can you give us a little insight as to what Caterpillar is doing with hybrid technologies and alternative forms of propulsion other than what we've all known to date as being big diesel systems?
Sure. We've got, well, the newest offering is basically just a scaled down version of what they've been using on commercial shipping for a while. We've got an AC motor that goes between the propulsion engine and the transmission. It can be used as to provide power for the boat or as a power takeout if you run power that AC motor with a generator on board. And, for example, the C32 is 1,900 horsepower. We've got the ability to have a 300 kW AC motor in line, which is equivalent to about 400 horsepower. So if you had a 300 kW gen set running with the engine, you could also, potentially have, 2,300 or 2,300 horsepower output. The nice thing about that for motor yachts and ultimately if you could get it in a sport fishing boat, you'd be able to shut off the main engine. The generators are going to be running anyway, and you can just kind of make slower speed without the mains. It's kind of a economic way to travel or move up and down the coast is kind of where we're hoping it goes. Yeah, there's a lot of potential there, but it's relatively new for us on this pleasure craft side. So we're excited to see what happens.
All right. Donald, can you hear me okay, Donald?
I can hear you, Paul.
Great. My apologies, folks. I can't see anybody, so I'm hopeful that you all can hear me. Donald, Northern Lights has been trying to be out on the leading edge of the hybrid technology here for a little while. Kit and Scott were just telling us about power takeoffs. But not on the power takeoff side so much, but as on the electrical side, can you give us a sense of what you're doing in hybrid technologies? And that's going to lead us into talking with Sven about you guys producing the energy and him storing it and delivering it. So what is it that Northern Lights is doing in that regard?
Well, basically the heart of any hybrid system is the generator itself, and that's what Northern Lights does. That's what we specialize on. So what we do is we provide you the generators that ultimately feed the batteries and direct feed the motors that move the propellers or direct feed the hotel loads. Ultimately what we're doing is we're going from our conventional fixed speed AC generators to more flexible variable speed DC systems that are able to feed into a DC bus that ultimately feeds into all of the loads within the vessel and provides for what we call distributed power. So you can have, any number of generators. The more generators you have, the more redundancy you have, and therefore you have much more flexibility in terms of how you use that power and how you manage that power within the boat.
Okay, so you guys are producing the electricity, and it's got to go someplace and be stored, which is a great segue into you, Sven. Tell us a little bit about the energy storage and delivery systems that you guys are developing. I know you've done a lot in the commercial segment, and you're learning more applications for that in the yachting sector. Can you tell us a little bit about the battery technologies that you're using these days, Sven?
Yeah, the battery technology itself is based on lithium-ion batteries. So it's very similar to what you see, for example, in the Tesla cars, computerized, etc. So the only difference on a marine application is that it's scaled a little bit bigger sizes. and is tailor-made for marine applications.
Is there something different that you do in the marine application other than what they would do in an automotive application? Is it a different sealing system, or is it lighter? Is it larger or smaller, or is it just a different application?
I think the biggest difference is that for marine application, it has to be more tailor-made to each vessel. You know that the car industry and the kind of industry can make a shelf repeated usage. We need to kind of understand and work with the McDonald's and the engine makers, etc. And we need to understand the vessel and how much power they have and how much energy storage they want to have aboard. So we try to pair the energy storage system up with the gensets and up with the user profile of the yacht. I think that's the main difference.
Okay, so the primary technology that you're using is the lithium ion as opposed to the older battery technologies. Is that because you're able to store more energy in a smaller footprint? Yeah,
that's one of the main reasons. And it's more, it can handle much more cycles as well. It can give you more power, and it has a per day lifetime of 5 to 10 years. It's a very actively managed battery system that's performing much better than traditional lead acid batteries.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to interrupt here for just one quick second and let the audience know that if you go up in the top of the chat box on your screen, you'll see a bar that says handouts with a little red dot. I encourage you to click on that and download those handouts. There's a lot of great information in there about these systems. There are some pictorials of how the systems lay out. There are even some discussions about cost of this stuff. And that's going to push me over to Jeff Bowles. Jeff with DLBA, Donald L. Blunt and Associates, and Gibson Cox. Jeff, when we bring you into this, obviously it's from the very beginning stage of a conversation like this, because we've got a lot of design elements that we have to consider with hull form, with utility, with space, with distribution of power and all that. Tell us a little bit about the considerations that a naval architect has when I come into your office and say, I brought my checkbook with me and I want something that utilizes new technologies to get my boat from point A to point B.
Sure. So you know, in the commercial world where we've seen diesel, electric, and hybrid systems for a while, and ferries and other types of vessels, you know, those decisions are pretty much always made from a fuel savings or you know, positive environmental impact by reducing emissions. That's typically why they're gone that way. Some of it's driven by regulations out there today with EPA 4 and IMO Tier 3 emission requirements, which you might be aware of. But really, as we try to look at from the very first conversations with an owner, we try to understand what their real design intent is, or intended use of the vessel, and what the operational profile looks like. That helps us properly size the generators and the generators and the battery system. But then we have to design the boat around that. So as you mentioned before, weight, space, volume, access for maintenance and repair, all of those factors go in to the layout of the boat and making sure that the hull form can carry and support the weight. So it really is an integrated package that needs to be put together by someone who's got a firm understanding of the whole picture, if you will.
You know, that's interesting, Jeff, and thank you. One of the opportunities I had a couple of years ago over at the General Boat Show was to go aboard a 130-foot motor yacht, and it was the first one that I had ever seen that didn't employ conventional propulsion systems. So what they were able to do was they placed 2 large generators up in the forepeak of the boat, and then they had battery storage through the bilges, and it allowed them to completely redesign and reutilize the spaces in the boat. Are you finding that to be challenging or advantageous? Is that exciting new ground, or is that like, holy mackerel, what are we doing here?
So that's a great point, and I was on that vessel last year at the Monaco Yacht Show. What a great boat by Guido de Groot and crew at the shipyard there. That is one of the absolute benefits of diesel electric propulsion. And to clarify, we have diesel electric as a type of propulsion. That's nothing new. They've had that on submarines since World War I. When you add the battery element in, or the energy storage system in, now we have the ability to run silent, if you will, without the generators or main engines operating, and that kind of ticks it over to the hybrid sense. So if we revert back to diesel electric, they started using that on vessels such as cruise ships for very distinct reasons, which is the high hotel load. All the lights and heating and air conditioning consumes an awful lot of electricity. So that you need to generate a lot of electricity, and then in doing so, you can have the equipment located in non-traditional spaces. That's an absolute benefit if you want to consider. Now you can place the generators up towards the bow, which is just about as far away from the owner's compartment as you can get. So I don't think you could retrofit a system in like that, but from initial design and construction, to get that separation can provide for great comfort for the passengers, as it keeps the sources of noise away from their sleeping quarters.
Jeff, can you envision solutions like that in smaller applications, in sub 30 meter systems?
Not quite so much, because I don't think that the boats are big enough to actually get that separation of space, if you follow me. I do think there are other benefits that they can bring in, such as on the smaller boats where the guests tend to spend a lot of time outdoors on the open aft deck spaces. Often diesel fumes can be an annoyance to guests and passengers on board. So the ability to operate in electric mode or have the generators off for a pleasant lunch on the aft deck, as an example, without the diesel exhaust or any spray that might result from the exhaust gas leaving the hull and bubbling up, is completely eliminated. And so there's a solid feature there where the guests are a solid instance where the guests still receive a great benefit of having the system on board the vessel.
Okay. All right. So, Brian, I'm going to kick back over to you for a second, and maybe you could help us understand a little bit more in depth, or a little bit better, about the hybrid power generation portion of it. So you talked about augmenting the diesel system with an electric drive or a parallel drive. How does that work? Is that in line in the shaft, so that we have a separate generating plant between the engine and the propeller?
Basically, yes. The motor that we've got now, it's SAE standard bell housing mounted.
Okay.
So it's in line, and then if you would just basically a jack shaft or cardan shaft to your transmission in between.
Okay.
The handout here is attached. Is got an illustration if someone would like to have a look.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And then, Donald, when you guys are doing a purely electrical system, are you typically powering? Obviously, you're powering an electric drive or an electric motor that's turning the shaft. Do you do that normally in a conventional drive system, or do we prefer a pod drive system? What seems to be the most elegant solution to that?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Basically, we're generating power. That power typically goes in to what we call a bus, which is kind of like a general area where the power can be transmitted to batteries or to the propulsion side of the to the propulsion motors or to the other hotel loads. In most of these systems, we really depend on the batteries. We kind of manage everything by keeping those batteries topped off, and as depending on the state of the batteries, then we can provide power for the rest of the applications. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's more.
Well, my question was, in propulsion systems in this day and age, we've basically got two that are most popular. We have a conventional drive system where we have a shaft that goes through the bottom of the boat and drives a propeller that's in line with the engine. And then the other type of system that is most popular today is a pod drive system, and the pod drive
azimut type systems,
allows.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you're able to drive both types of systems.
Yes, absolutely. We can do both. We can couple a generator or a motor generator in the case of Brian's system to the shaft, or we can feed into pods from the bus itself. So yes, the great thing about hybrid systems is the flexibility that it allows, and I think obviously for Jeff and other naval architects, I think that's what's most exciting about it. The fact that you can have multiple sources of power. You can place those sources of power in different in non-conventional locations, and the fact that you can drive the boat with or without the use of a diesel engine.
Okay, all right. Sven, I'm gonna jump over to you for a moment. You had mentioned a moment ago that lithium-ion is the choice, and you mentioned something about duty cycles, if I'm not mistaken. What sort of life expectancy do we predict to have out of a battery bank that we would use to drive propulsion in the boats? Is it something like they talk about with the Tesla automobiles, for example, where after a specific period of time you need to consider changing out your batteries?
Yes, absolutely. So what we're doing is that when we're looking at a project, we need to understand how much we want to use the batteries, and based on that, we size the batteries. And the size in the battery is very much linked to the lifetime. In the commercial marine today, we have roughly 230 vessels out there already, and we have landed on typically somewhere between 7 and 10 years lifetime on the batteries.
Okay.
So what I can explain is that so what we're doing is that you have oversized batteries in the beginning because the battery will lose capacity over time. And I can give you a thumb rule that what we're calling end of life, then the battery have roughly 70% of the capacity they had when it was delivered aboard the vessel.
Okay, so similar to when you look at your iPhone and the darn thing won't take a charge anymore, you go into the battery life and it tells you you've only got 71% capacity, and that's why it's not doing it. So it's basically the same consideration in the main storage batteries on a marine propulsion system.
Yeah, indeed it is. Yeah. So if I take example, for example, in Europe now, there's a lot of ferries crossing back and forward on batteries only. So then we know very accurate how much power they need to do each trip and that kind of things. And what we calculate when we're sizing battery in that case is not the day we deliver the batteries. We're calculating how much you need when the batteries are down to 7% capacity. So in principle, you will have overcapacity the first half of the lifetime. And then at the end of lifetime, when you get to the point you need to replace them, that's where you are maxing out the batteries on board the vessel.
Okay. So when we're talking about these batteries, I know one of the first jobs that I enjoyed doing as a yacht broker was to change out a set of 8D batteries in a boat that I had sold. And pretty much everybody in the industry knows how big and heavy an 8D is. We'll talk to Jeff a little bit about design considerations for this sort of stuff. But when we're talking about these batteries, are you talking about a pack that may weigh hundreds of pounds, or is it a system that maybe is component that we can have manageable sized cells that hook up together to provide our electrical power source?
Corvus Energy, the company I work for, we are coming from a medium to large vessel market. So our system is a little bit in the high end, but I want to give you a heads up that there are other makers too that is more scalable. Our system is based on that you need to have some kind of battery room on board. You need a dedicated space for it. And it is relatively heavy system. We call it packs. So there will be a rack. As you can see behind me, actually, there will be a typical rack configuration.
Okay.
And then basically, depending on how big the vessel is depending on how many racks and how high, etc., they need to be. So yeah, it's very scalable. We can scale it down to roughly 80 kilowatt hours, and the biggest delivery we have today is 10 megawatt hours, which is for the large cruise ship. So that again, that is about 100 metric tons on that cruise ship. So they can be big too, but it's very scalable for us too. We have a limitation downwards, but there are other makers that can go further down as well.
Well, as with many things, we find that the commercial side of any industry enjoys the economies of scale that allow us to develop the technologies, and then hopefully we can shrink those technologies down into sizes that work for us in a more handheld or more personal or pleasure application. So, Jeff, I'm going to go back to you for just a second and talk about the design considerations. I guess when we're talking about retrofit, we've got the limitations that the original naval architect or manufacturer built in. Can we work around some of those things if we wanted to try to do a retrofit to a hybrid or a diesel electric propulsion system?
Yeah, absolutely. The number one concern is from a hydrodynamic or from a naval architecture perspective, really is the overall weight and the distribution of that weight within the vessel. As we mentioned earlier, the energy storage system being a modular component, and really the hybrid system in general being somewhat modular allows us to place components throughout the vessel that we choose, which is good because that allows us to distribute the weight of the hybrid energy storage system and hybrid propulsion system in a location in the vessel where it doesn't impact us negatively. Now, the next thing to be concerned about is space. If we have the hull envelope and we have arrangements, we've got to find somewhere to put these energy storage systems. The propulsion motors, the electric propulsion motors, are relatively small. It can be configured in line with the drive line or a piggyback power takeoff, power take in on the gearbox. So it's no different than a hydraulic pump or an additional piece of shafting. They can be easily incorporated. So finding the room to fit the transformers, the power converters, the control boxes, and the energy storage system throughout the boat is the challenge. But again, due to the modular nature, you can tweak it in and work it in places. On the Corvus solution, as Sven mentioned, those systems require their own dedicated room. So it's hard to take a whole stateroom really and convert it into an energy storage room. But on the smaller systems that are less onerous or less demanding for their installation requirements, that can easily be done.
Well, in theory, if we're going to be going to a different technology like this, there's the opportunity that we may be doing a complete repower from soup to nuts on the boat. So we may be taking out a large engine from the engine room or a pair of large engines and putting in smaller engines that are creating electricity or driving the parallel drive system. And that maybe would allow us some engine room space or even the potential for reducing some of the fuel capacity in the boat and incorporating those spaces for energy storage through electricity.
Well, that's exactly right. I've done a lot of comparisons recently with outboard motors and the diesel outboard motors that are coming on the market. And everyone says, oh, they're so big and heavy. And well, if you consider the fact that they reduce the fuel consumption of the boat by 30% relative to a gasoline outboard, you now need 30% less fuel capacity. So you actually end up saving weight from an overall perspective. And sometimes that gets overlooked. Paul, one thing that I want to mention here kind of goes back to what we talked about before, as well as what you just said about battery life expectancy. One of the neat things about the batteries or the energy storage systems that I see today is they're advancing almost at the same rate that computer technology did, in the late 90s. You bought a Pentium 90 megahertz processor, and the next week was a Pentium 100, and the next week was a 133. Battery energy storage technology is growing rapidly. Sven was able to update provide me with some updated information. So you'll see sort of an average power density bar in one of the handout slides that I've provided. And that just shows a benchmark of where we are today. When we originally developed the chart 2 years ago, battery energy capacity was about 20% to 30% lower where the average bar is today. So Sven's rightly said, you have to size the batteries correctly so that at the end of their life, they have the amount of power you want to use. And you also have to make sure that you realize that when you size the batteries, you can't take every ounce of energy out of the battery at one time or else you will damage it. So there's additional margins that have to be placed on there, which results in pretty big, heavy energy storage solutions. So what's neat is if you plan for that 7 to 10 year life cycle, the technology available when it is time to re-up is significant. And in fact, I would even argue that sometimes it's worthy of considering sizing the batteries for only 3 or 4 years life, because as the technology is expanding so rapidly, now when it's time to replace in 3 to 4 years, the capacity and performance is better and the cost is lower. So once you've gotten over the hurdle the first time, it doesn't sting so much the second time, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, and I don't think that there's anybody here on the call that would argue about leaving opportunities to buy new stuff in a couple of years as opposed to 7 years. It kind of keeps us all in groceries, so that's a plan I think we all like. So one of the great advantages to this hybrid technology is the green aspect of it. Brian, are you getting a lot of inquiry at Caterpillar? I know that you haven't personally done one of these hybrid systems in a pleasure boat here lately, and I know you'd love to have the opportunity to do that. That was a shameless plug for you. But are you getting a lot of inquiry in regard to this? And do you think that there is something that may be coming on the horizon in the sector that you work on?
I believe so. We had this hybrid drive at the last 2 shows, actually, Lauderdale and Miami. And there was a lot of interest in it. You know, most people walked up and thought that it was a transmission already mated to the engine on display. So once you started explaining what it was and how it worked, there was a lot of buzz around it. So we're looking forward to that technology getting smaller and smaller. Our lower horsepower models as well, and kind of seeing what we can do with it. It really does boil down to at this point, I think for the large horsepower jumps, I think the power requirement for a generator sizing is just a little too large, especially in a sport fish. Sport fish guys would love to have it because they could shut off the mains, run off the gens, and just do trolling speed. That'd be ideal setup, but there's not really room in a sport fish boat now for a 100 kW genset or 150 kW genset. So until we can do things like supplement that with battery power or some other means, that's what we're kind of excited for, these next steps. Like Jeff was talking about, it's you can see it growing quickly. So that's really where I think it's going to go. I don't see any way around, especially with emissions regulations, getting tighter on us all the time, with the need for the boats getting bigger, wanting to go faster. We've just got to kind of, I think, a marriage of all these different opportunities between diesel, electric, solar, battery powered, wind gen. I mean, who knows? There's one sailboats. It's I think it's ultimately just going to be a combination of all of these technologies and systems working together. And to go back, Mark had a question earlier in the chat. It was really about the electric motors. You said high torque, but it's really kind of instant torque, and that's where the technology for the control system is really coming along faster. Is being able to control that instant power that an electric motor has versus an internal combustion engine that it builds its power as it ramps up in RPM. That's the part that you're trying to manage, is with that control system, and really where our system is coming in, the controls that we have that handle the engine power from the combustion side to the generator power, and then marrying that through the control panel on board. I don't know if that really answered his question completely, but that's kind of where it's at.
No, I appreciate that, Brian. And you touched on something there that stimulates a question from me. I know perpetual motion isn't something that I think we're ever going to achieve, but well, maybe, who knows? But regenerative power is something that I know is applied in the automotive industry with regenerative braking. Sven, do you have any experience with any regenerative systems to where, not to take Donald and Brian out of the equation here with fossil fuel based energizing systems, but is there any opportunity for regenerative power, maybe through a propeller dragging in the water or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just I want to reflect a bit, as Jeff mentioned too, that things we talk about now is that if you have a little more advanced power system on a boat, so if you have some kind of diesel electric propulsion and you have genset on board and you have them combined with batteries, then the batteries can do two-way. So first of all, we can take charge anytime and we can discharge anytime. So if you have a situation, if you have any kind of external energy source, it could be wind power, it could be wind rotating or propeller rotating generators, you can use them anytime and you can gradually just charge your batteries from emission-free energy sources. So yeah, you can do a lot of combinations with when you first had the batteries together with the electrical system on board. It opened up for a lot of...
So I just wanted to add to that one does not negate the other. I mean, you can still have regenerative power with the diesel generators that are also supporting the system. Again, the beauty of these systems is the versatility that you have and the ability to combine multiple sources of power to resolve your load issues.
And I can also add on an example of in the offshore industry, they do it already. In the offshore industry, you have a lot of we call it heave compensation, and you have cranes. So when they're lifting, they're using the power, and when they're lowering down again, they have to brake. And when they're braking the cranes, when they're lowering, we take the energy back from the batteries. So we recover a lot of energy spent in those cases.
Well, you make a very interesting point.
I just wanted to add that like you're talking about a Tesla and that technology coming along, you take it home, you can plug it in. You go to the mall, you can plug it in. Get to the hotel, you can plug it in. You can't do that on a boat. So I think that's where diesel or internal combustion engine as a power source to assist all these new technologies coming up, it's not going to go away for, I don't think, in our lifetime. I don't see how it can. Not on a boat. I mean, you may be all electric cars at one point, but I think diesel engines on vessels are going to be around for a while. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, Brian. Not that I'm an expert in the industry, but or in the field, but yeah, I don't anticipate the charging capabilities of the diesel engine being negated by dragging a propeller or nobody's going to have a cord long enough to go from here to the Abacos. So you're not going to be able to stay plugged in, that's for sure. And there's not going to be a strip along the side of the road that you're picking up electricity from that would power you either. So no, that's a very good point. The green aspect of this, I think, as you mentioned there, is important. Is there a consideration in that regard with the building of the power storage systems, Sven, with regard to, does it take a lot of heavy metal or does it take a lot of different technologies to develop these storage systems?
Yeah, basically the cell technology itself is something we are not making. We're purchasing that one mainly from Korea and Asia. And what we're doing is that we are packing the cells into what we call modules, and then we assemble it to a bigger system, which we call racks and packs, as shown behind me here. But I want to give you a heads up from an environmental point of view, 99% of the system is recyclable, for example. So all the racking, etc., they are made of aluminum or steel. And the cells themselves, per today, this technology, majority of the metals inside it can be recycled. So there's very little hazardous waste from any kind of battery system. So we do also today in the commercial industry, if we have a service agreement, we have a performance agreement where we guarantee they're going to last for a certain time, and we will take the batteries back from the owner when they have to be replaced. And we will make sure that they are preserved correctly at the end of lifetime.
That's fascinating. That's really good news to hear, because I don't think that that's something that that the industry, the energy industry, touts quite enough, is the fact that this is a totally recyclable or almost totally recyclable technology, and that speaks very, very well to the longevity and the protection of the resources that we have. Is there anything any of you guys would like to add to our conversation at this point with regard to hybrid technologies? Donald?
I'd like to add a couple of things with regards to the green aspect of this. Every technology has environmental consequences. There's a limited amount of lithium out there. Lithium mining has its issues. But again, if we can address these things by recycling that lithium, like Corvus is doing, we're able to address these problems. So that's one consideration on the one hand. The other consideration is the hybrid system allows you also to navigate, the current regulatory landscape by being able to have the flexibility to use multiple generators so that you can stay under or above the thresholds that the regulatory bodies are asking you to provide for, and you can't do that with conventional technology. So again, hybrid opens up the door so that you can play with the different options in terms of generators and motors and motor generators, etc. So I just wanted to add that as a last note.
No, you bring a very good point forward. And I'm sure as different internal combustion technologies come forward, Brian, your guys, and Donald, your guys, will be embracing those considerations as well, whether it's hydrogen or whatever it may be, that tends to bring us forward with power generation, and then. As Jeff made a very good point of, Sven's guys every day are coming up with new storage capabilities and storage capacities and longer life cycles and longer life expectancies. This has been a really, really interesting segment. I appreciate you guys being flexible with me here. I feel like I'm flying on instruments here because I don't get to see my panelists. But like my dad always said, trust your instruments. They'll get you where you're going. So I want to thank all of you very much for your really, really great insight, your input to this. I'll remind the audience again, don't forget to go up into the handouts and download that information. There's really valuable stuff there. It's the future. It's where we're going to be before you know it. Like Jeff said, not all too long ago, you saw technologies that were the newest thing. Heck, I remember when 8-track was the thing, and it was quickly replaced by a cassette, and the next thing you knew, it was a CD, and now it's all MP3 or satellite. So our technologies move quickly, our improvements come along very, very quickly, but take advantage of those handouts that you have. Reach out to these guys, learn about this stuff, educate yourselves so that you can bring this technology forward to your clients. They're going to be asking you about it, and it's important for us to know. Gentlemen, I want to thank you again very, very much for your time and your expertise this morning. Sven, especially, thanks for getting up so bright and early to join us. My apologies to everybody. I don't know if the Chinese hacked us this morning. I know it wasn't the Russians. Natalia would have told me. But I'm gonna turn it over to our tech crew here at IYBA. I know they've got a good handle on it. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for a wonderful day 4. Thank you, everybody in the audience. I saw everything from Los Angeles to British Columbia to Croatia to Poland I know we've got folks from Great Britain and the Netherlands here all over the continental United States. I'm really happy that we're able to bring this information forward. Stay tuned. Come back to see us tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We're going to have another great day where we're going to talk with Seakeeper about stabilizers, and then we're going to have some tips and tricks from some of the greatest yacht brokers in the industry, giving us a little peek behind the curtain of how to close boats and how to make your deals stick together. So, gentlemen, again, thank you very much. We always appreciate your insight and input, and thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great day, and go sell something, will you?
Great. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yacht Engineering Week has been brought to you by Robert Allen Law, Pantropic Power CAT, MPI Professionals, KVH, Northern Lights, Seakeeper, Quantum, AMA Solutions, Karen Lynn Interior Design, Apollo Lighting, Underwater Lights Limited. Our connection has been provided by JV Connectivity, and our timekeepers have been Lauderdale Marine Center.
Do you want to generate leads? Is free your favorite price? Then you need to check out IYBA.pro. IYBA.pro is your industry-owned platform for all listings and marketing. Create robust yacht sales and charter profiles, elegant marketing material, have access to all your exclusive data, and enjoy premium search engine optimization by signing up with us. For more information on how to join IYBA.pro, call the IYBA headquarters or email me at casey@iyba.org.
Maritime arbitration has been around for hundreds of years. Now we have a new forum to solve our disputes. The IYBA has created the International Yacht Arbitration Council to solve our disagreements. We have experienced maritime attorneys and yacht brokers to serve on our panels, people who know the law, who know boats, and who know the yacht business. IYAC arbitration can handle yacht claims, contract, purchase, and commission disputes privately, quickly, and less costly than going to court. Sometimes disputes happen, and when they do, the IYAC is here to help you solve them.
Hi, I'm Bob Saxon. I'm president of EBA, the International Yacht Brokers Association. What is EBA? Our mission statement suggests our worthy objective to be promoting professionalism and ethics amongst our members. But EBA is more than that. The work and the energies of our board of directors and our support committees is directed toward bettering the business environment within our constituency by way of education, networking, webinars, seminars, political engagement, and many other activities for the greater benefit of our membership. Our reach is impressive, with a global membership of over 1,600 strong, marking EBA as the largest and most influential professional association of yacht brokers and affiliates. If not a current member, I encourage your participation. If already an active EBA member, learn how you can serve in a board support capacity by becoming a committee member. I asked earlier, what is EBA? And in the final analysis, EBA is you, EBA is your cause. And I know that you're going to enjoy this week's EBA Yacht Engineering Webinar Week.